Behind the picture-perfect smiles and the endless talk of family unity, there were secrets. Secrets so raw and painful that they could never be captured fully on camera. For years, viewers tuned in to watch Sister Wives, believing they were witnessing a groundbreaking story of love, harmony, and shared sacrifice. The world saw what looked like an extraordinary family. One man, 4 wives and 18 children, all trying to live in unity while navigating the unusual dynamics of polygamy. But that was only the surface. What the cameras revealed was a carefully curated glimpse. What they didn't show was the heartbreak, rivalry, and betrayal that simmered beneath. Behind closed doors, these women weren't just sister wives. They were rivals, survivors, and sometimes prisoners of their own choices. The world saw a family. But the shocking truth? The wives often saw loneliness, competition, and shattered dreams. When TLC first introduced Kody Brown and his wives, it was pitched as a brave experiment, a chance for America to peek inside a polygamous family and witness how love could stretch beyond the limits of monogamy. The wives smiled, their children laughed, and Kody played the role of the doting father, his long hair swinging as he boasted about his devotion to his big, beautiful family. For the audience, it was fascinating. Here was a man who claimed to balance 4 marriages, ensuring every woman felt loved, valued, and equal. Viewers were told this wasn't about jealousy. It was about faith, community, and unity. The message was simple: polygamy wasn't chaos. It was family, multiplied. But beneath those smiles were fractures. Every laugh shared in front of the cameras had the weight of arguments that happened off-screen. Every dinner scene that looked warm and inviting masked a struggle for attention and validation. What looked like equality was in truth a hierarchy where someone always felt left behind. Each wife had her own story, her own private battles, but what united them all was one thing: the feeling of not being enough. Imagine sharing your husband, not just emotionally, but physically, spiritually, and financially. Imagine having to smile while your husband walks out the door to sleep in another woman's bed, knowing he won't be back for days. This was the silent reality of Kody Brown's wives. They smiled for the cameras, but behind those smiles there was longing. There was pain. There was resentment. Meri, the first wife, often felt like a relic of the past, the foundation stone that got buried once newer wives came into the picture. Janelle, the second wife, kept the peace but often sacrificed her own needs, fading into the background as the practical one. Christine, the third wife, lived for years feeling overlooked and unappreciated, her bubbly personality hiding a broken heart. Robyn, the fourth wife, became the center of Kody's world, but at the cost of destroying the fragile balance that once held the family together. The shocking truth was that polygamy wasn't making them stronger. It was breaking them, piece by piece. On television, fans saw family picnics, road trips, and group discussions about faith. The Brown family presented themselves as pioneers of a lifestyle misunderstood by the outside world. But what the cameras didn't always capture were the long nights of crying, the whispered conversations between wives when jealousy boiled over, and the children quietly watching as their mothers grew more unhappy. For instance, a family meeting on screen might show all the wives gathered around the table, nodding and smiling as Kody made plans. But the truth behind those meetings? Some wives already felt dismissed before the conversation even began. Decisions were often presented as family choices when in reality, they reflected what Kody wanted, and usually what Robyn wanted too. Every moment of laughter had an undercurrent of competition. Every moment of unity carried the weight of someone's silent disappointment. The illusion began to crumble slowly, and fans noticed. Viewers started to see that the wives weren't as united as they appeared. Meri seemed distant, often sitting quietly on the sidelines. Janelle looked worn down, her focus shifting more toward her kids than her husband. Christine's cheerful mask occasionally slipped, revealing tears and frustration. And Robyn, she became the lightning rod of blame, seen by many fans as the wedge that drove the others apart. But here's the truth: the cracks in the foundation existed long before Robyn. Polygamy itself, the constant competition for love and attention, planted seeds of jealousy and heartache from the very beginning. Robyn's arrival just exposed what was already broken. Perhaps the most heartbreaking part of the story was what the children saw. While adults tried to hold the family together with words like unity and commitment, the kids often saw the reality more clearly. They saw their mothers cry. They saw the tension at family gatherings. They saw when one household received more attention than another. The children's voices rarely made it to the forefront of the show, but the impact on them was undeniable. Some of them grew up questioning polygamy, realizing that what was portrayed as love often looked like neglect. The shocking truth? The children, in many ways, carried the emotional weight of their parents' broken dreams. So, what is the shocking truth about the wives of Kody Brown? It's this: the smiles were real, but so were the tears. The laughter was genuine, but so was the pain. The unity was spoken, but rarely lived. These women didn't just share a husband, they shared heartbreak, disappointment, and the slow realization that the dream they were promised might never exist. When you peel back the layers of television editing, you find women who are struggling in silence. You find Meri, yearning to feel loved again. Janelle, sacrificing her own happiness for the sake of peace. Christine, realizing she had to leave to find her worth. And Robyn, caught between being Kody's favorite and the villain in everyone else's story. The world tuned in to watch a family. But what they were really watching was the unraveling of a dream that promised unity, but delivered division. And that is the shocking truth behind the smiles. Meri was the beginning. The very first wife. The one who stood beside Kody when there were no cameras, no fame, no big houses or dreams of a television show. Back then, it was just two young people, deeply in love, believing they were creating something extraordinary. For Meri, polygamy wasn't just about faith, it was about building a legacy. She believed she was laying the foundation for a family so strong, so united, that it would stand the test of time. In those early years, she had Kody's undivided attention. His love, his affection, his dreams, they were all hers. But as the years passed and new wives entered the picture, that closeness began to fade. Slowly, Meri found herself watching the man she once called her soulmate drift into the arms of other women. What began as a love story turned into a competition, one where she never quite managed to keep up. The truth that viewers rarely saw was that Meri lived in a constant state of emotional hunger. While she smiled for the cameras, she often felt invisible. She was the first wife, but she no longer felt like the most important one. In fact, she often felt like the least. When Janelle came into the picture, Meri told herself she could handle it. After all, this was what plural marriage was supposed to be: sacrifice, patience, and sisterhood. But Kody's affection shifted, even if he denied it. When Christine joined, the gap widened further. And when Robyn finally entered, Meri's role nearly disappeared altogether. It wasn't just that Kody loved other women, it was that Meri could feel herself slipping out of his heart, piece by piece. Her struggle wasn't just with Kody, it was with herself. She wondered, am I enough? Do I even matter here? It's the kind of question that eats away at you in silence. And for Meri, silence became her constant companion. On television, she often appeared reserved, quiet, or even standoffish. Viewers sometimes misunderstood her, assuming she was cold or bitter. But the reality was far more painful. She was heartbroken. For years she had invested everything into a marriage where she no longer felt loved. And then came the scandal, the infamous catfishing incident. To outsiders, it was a shocking betrayal. The first wife, reaching outside her marriage to find love, it became tabloid fodder, a storyline for the show, a dramatic moment that seemed to confirm the family's worst fears. But the truth behind that story was not about betrayal at all. Meri wasn't trying to abandon her family. She wasn't seeking drama. She was seeking connection. She was desperate for someone to see her, to value her, to remind her that she was worthy of love. In a marriage where she often felt invisible, she turned to someone outside, believing for a moment that she had found what she was missing. And when it all came crashing down, the world judged her, but few understood the depth of her loneliness that led her there. What made it even more painful was Kody's reaction. Instead of compassion, he gave her distance. Instead of forgiveness, he offered detachment. He said openly that he no longer had romantic feelings for her. Imagine hearing that from the man you once believed was your forever. Imagine watching him confess his devotion to another wife, while dismissing your own worth. For Meri, it wasn't just rejection, it was erasure. But here's the shocking truth, that so many missed, Meri didn't give up. Despite being sidelined, despite being humiliated on national television, despite being told she would never again be loved by her own husband, she stayed. She stayed because this wasn't just about Kody. This was about her faith, her family, and her hope that one day things could change. Yet deep down, she knew the love she longed for might never return. And that's what makes her story so heartbreaking. Meri was the first wife, the cornerstone, the one who started it all. And yet she became the most forgotten. To the world, she was part of a famous family. To Kody, she was just there. And to herself, she was a woman caught between hope and despair, between loyalty and loneliness, between holding on and letting go. Her journey is a reminder that sometimes the greatest pain isn't in losing what you never had. It's in losing what you once thought was yours forever. And for Meri, that was the shocking truth. Janelle was different from the beginning. Unlike the others, she wasn't raised in a polygamous household. She married into the lifestyle, choosing it not because of tradition, but because she believed in the promise of something greater. When she became Kody's second wife, she brought with her a quiet strength, a calmness that seemed to balance out the storm of emotions that polygamy often carried. Viewers quickly labeled her as the logical one, the wife who always kept her cool. While others argued or cried, Janelle often sat back, listening, calculating, trying to see the bigger picture. To many fans, she appeared almost detached, less romantic, less emotional, but the truth was far more complex. Janelle wasn't cold, she was resilient. She was surviving. Her story, though less dramatic on the surface, carried its own kind of heartbreak. From the very beginning, she knew what she was sacrificing. Unlike Meri, who once had Kody's undivided love, Janelle entered a marriage where she would always be sharing. She didn't walk in expecting to be his only one. Instead, she walked in prepared to give more than she ever received. And that's exactly what happened. Janelle became the workhorse of the family. While Kody dreamed big, and other wives struggled for his attention, Janelle quietly kept things running. She managed finances, built careers, and made sure the children had what they needed. In many ways, she became the backbone of the household, the one who sacrificed her personal time and even her marriage to keep the entire family afloat. But here's the shocking truth. That role came at a cost. While she was busy holding the family together, her own marriage to Kody was slowly falling apart. It wasn't that there was no affection between them. There was, at least in the beginning. But Kody's attention was divided, and Janelle wasn't the type to demand it. While Meri fought openly for her husband's love, and Christine wore her heart on her sleeve, Janelle buried her feelings. She convinced herself that being practical, being steady, being the strong one was enough. But late at night, when the kids were asleep and the cameras were gone, she too felt the sting of loneliness. For years, Janelle told herself that her sacrifices were worth it, that building this large, sprawling family was a calling, a higher purpose, but as time passed, cracks began to show. She watched as Kody favored certain wives and certain children. She noticed how his promises of fairness often turned into patterns of neglect. She saw how her contributions, financial, emotional, and physical, were quietly taken for granted. Janelle's breaking point didn't come suddenly. It came slowly, like water wearing down stone. It was in the moments when Kody dismissed her opinions, in the holidays spent feeling like her kids weren't as important, in the countless times she gave up her own needs to make the family work, only to be met with Kody's growing obsession with Robyn. What made Janelle's story so heartbreaking wasn't just that she was unloved. It was that she was undervalued. Kody often praised her for her strength, her practicality, her ability to keep things together, but praise without love feels hollow. Compliments don't replace intimacy. And Janelle knew that. As the years went on, viewers began to notice her transformation. She was no longer the quiet, detached wife. She started speaking up. She started questioning. She started refusing to let Kody's vision override her reality. And when the pandemic hit, everything shifted. During those years, Kody's favoritism toward Robyn became undeniable. Rules were enforced for some households, but bent for others. Janelle's children, especially her older boys, felt abandoned, and Janelle saw it too. She realized that while she had given her entire adult life to this man, he wasn't willing to stand equally for her children the way he did for Robyn's. And that realization cut deep. The breaking point came when Janelle finally admitted what many had suspected all along. She didn't really have a marriage anymore. She had a partnership in logistics, in raising children, in survival. But romance, affection, intimacy, those had been gone for years. And yet, Janelle wasn't bitter. That's the part of her story that surprises people the most. While Meri clung to hope, and Christine fought for freedom, Janelle simply accepted the truth. She didn't rage, she didn't blame. She understood, finally, that she had built her life around a man who would never give her what she truly needed. And instead of breaking her, that realization set her free. When she walked away, it wasn't with anger, it was with dignity. It was with the quiet strength she had always carried. Janelle didn't leave because she hated Kody. She left because she finally loved herself enough to stop settling for less. Her children, who had always been her priority, stood proudly by her side. And fans who once misunderstood her calmness as detachment, finally saw her for what she truly was, the strongest wife of them all. The shocking truth about Janelle is this: she wasn't the quiet one, the background player, the unemotional wife. She was the foundation. She carried the family when no one else could. And in the end, she proved that strength isn't about staying in a broken marriage, it's about knowing when to walk away. Christine always dreamed of being a sister wife. Unlike Janelle, who approached the lifestyle with practicality, or Meri, who entered through romance, Christine was raised to see polygamy as a spiritual calling. To her, the idea of sharing a husband wasn't strange. It was beautiful. She believed that plural marriage would mean a community of love, sisterhood, and unity. She imagined raising her children alongside her sisters, leaning on one another, sharing burdens, and celebrating joys. For Christine, it wasn't just about Kody. It was about the dream of family. In the beginning, she embraced the role fully. She called herself the basement wife with a smile, proud of her position and her place in the family. But behind that cheerful exterior, the cracks began to form almost immediately. Christine's vision of sisterhood clashed with reality. She found herself in a marriage where competition overshadowed companionship, and though she tried to ignore it, deep down she felt it. She was never truly Kody's favorite. For years, Christine masked her pain with laughter. She was bubbly. She was supportive. She was the glue that kept family gatherings lighthearted. Fans loved her because she seemed approachable and fun. But what the cameras didn't always capture were the long nights she spent feeling invisible. Kody's attention was always divided, but it didn't take long for Christine to notice that her share was smaller than others. The truth was heartbreaking. Christine longed to be loved, not just tolerated. She wanted affection, intimacy, and validation. But instead, she often got criticism. Kody questioned her parenting, dismissed her opinions, and brushed off her emotions. She was raising 6 children, giving everything she had, and still, she felt unseen. One of Christine's deepest pains was watching how her children were treated compared to others. She noticed when Kody was more present with Robyn's kids. She saw the imbalance, the favoritism, and it tore her apart. For Christine, motherhood was sacred. Her children were her world. And to see them overlooked by the man who was supposed to be their father cut deeper than any personal slight ever could. Her breaking point didn't come all at once. Like Janelle, it built slowly. But for Christine, the final straw came in the form of rejection. Raw, undeniable rejection. In one of the show's most shocking moments, Kody admitted he was no longer attracted to her. For a woman who had given decades of her life to a marriage, who had raised children, sacrificed her own needs, and clung to the hope of being valued, those words were devastating. Imagine being told, after years of devotion, that your husband simply didn't want you anymore. Not because you had failed, but because he had chosen to give his heart elsewhere. That was Christine's reality. And yet, in that moment of pain, something powerful awakened in her. Instead of breaking, she rose. Christine made the choice that shocked not only the family, but also millions of viewers around the world. She left. She walked away from Kody, from plural marriage, from the life she had built for decades. She decided that she deserved more. She deserved love, respect, and joy. things she could no longer find in her marriage. Her decision was not just about herself, it was about her children. Christine wanted them to grow up knowing what healthy love looked like. She wanted her daughters to see that it was okay to demand respect, and her sons to understand that women should never settle for less. In leaving Kody, she wasn't just saving herself, she was saving her family's future. Fans celebrated her bravery. Social media exploded with support. Christine became the symbol of strength, the wife who dared to do what the others hadn't. She showed the world that leaving wasn't failure. It was freedom. What made her story even more powerful was what came next. Christine didn't just leave Kody. She rediscovered herself. She embraced single life with joy, started new traditions with her children, and eventually found love again. For the first time in years, she was glowing. Not because of a man, but because she had reclaimed her worth. The shocking truth about Christine is that her smile, the one viewers saw for so many seasons, was often a mask hiding years of neglect. But when she finally walked away, that same smile became real again. She had spent too long trying to fit into Kody's version of love, and when she broke free, she proved to the world that self-love is the greatest love of all. Christine's journey is a reminder that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away. She once dreamed of being part of a united sisterhood, but in the end, she realized that her true calling wasn't to live in the shadows of others. It was to step into the light on her own. And that is Christine's shocking truth. She was never the basement wife. She was the wife who had the courage to rise above it all. Robyn was the game changer. When she entered the family, everything shifted, not just for Kody, but for every wife who had stood by his side before her. To the outside world, she was presented as the new wife, the one who brought fresh energy, new hope, and even legally married Kody, so he could adopt her children. But behind the carefully edited storylines, Robyn's arrival sent shockwaves through a fragile system that was already cracking. At first, the other wives tried to welcome her. Christine, especially, went out of her way to embrace Robyn, believing that adding another wife would strengthen their family. Meri, who had been closest to Kody in the early years, even encouraged her marriage, hoping it would bring balance. Janelle stayed neutral, as she often did, but none of them were prepared for what came next. From the beginning, it was clear Robyn was different. Kody treated her differently. His affection toward her was more obvious, his patience with her longer, his attention more consistent. Where he had once spread himself thin among his wives, now he seemed to concentrate his love on one. The shocking truth? The balance of plural marriage collapsed the moment Robyn entered. For the other wives, it was like watching the unspoken rules of their world being rewritten in real time. They had spent years telling themselves that polygamy was about equality, that each wife had an equal share in their husband's heart. But with Robyn, that illusion crumbled. The favoritism was undeniable. Kody spent more time with her, consulted her more, and often defended her in conflicts. To the wives, it felt like betrayal. To Kody, it felt like destiny. He described Robyn as his soulmate, something he had never openly said about the others. For Meri, Janelle, and Christine, it was a gut punch. For years, they had shared a man under the belief that no one woman would be elevated above the rest. But now, Robyn had become the center of his world, leaving the others in the shadows. Fans quickly noticed the shift too. Viewers began to criticize Robyn, labeling her manipulative, calling her the favorite wife, even accusing her of orchestrating the downfall of the family. But here's the complicated truth. Robyn didn't create the cracks. She exposed them. The jealousy, the competition, the hurt feelings were always there. Robyn just made them impossible to ignore. Still, the perception of Robyn as the villain stuck. Every time she cried on camera, some fans saw it as acting. Every time she defended Kody, they saw it as manipulation. And every time he chose her side, they saw it as proof that she had taken over. Whether fair or not, Robyn became the lightning rod for the family's pain. What makes her story shocking is that while she won Kody's full love, it came at a devastating cost. She got the husband, but she lost the sisterhood. She became the legal wife, but also the symbol of imbalance. She had the man's devotion, but at the price of alienation from the other women. And then came the pandemic, when everything exploded. Kody's strict rules seemed to revolve around Robyn's household. The other wives felt targeted, their children treated unfairly compared to hers. Christine and Janelle's kids saw the double standard, and the resentment deepened. Robyn became the face of those double standards, whether she intended to or not. As Meri drifted into emotional exile, as Janelle quietly reached her breaking point, and as Christine finally walked away, one thing became clear. The dream of unity was dead. And at the center of that unraveling was Robyn. But here's the part of the story that complicates everything. Robyn never wanted to be the villain. In her eyes, she had simply fallen in love. She wanted a husband who loved her, children who felt secure, and a family that could work. She didn't enter to destroy. She entered to build. But love doesn't follow rules, and Kody's heart made a choice that tore down the very system he had sworn to uphold. Today, Robyn stands as the last wife standing. On paper, that looks like a victory. She is Kody's only partner now, the one who remains when all the others walked away. But look deeper, and you see the hollowness of that victory. The family is fractured, the sisterhood gone, and the dream of polygamy in ruins. Robyn got the man, but she lost the family. She thought she was gaining. The shocking truth about Robyn is that she is both the favorite and the most isolated. She has what the other wives once fought for, but at the cost of being resented, blamed, and left with the remnants of a broken family. And for Kody, choosing her above the rest might have felt like love, but in the end it cost him nearly everything else. Robyn's story is a reminder that sometimes winning doesn't feel like victory. Sometimes being chosen means standing alone, and sometimes the price of love is far higher than you ever imagined.